Good everyone, I hope you're having an amazing day. So today we will be covering nitty-gritty stuff of Apex. If you remember in the last lecture I talked about Apex and introduction to Apex and how I explained Apex is a multi-tenant aware language and it's an object-oriented programming language. We covered a bit about the data types like Boolean collections and strings, right? And then we even talked about the static and basic non-static method, right? And also explained how to go to developer console and write your own code and how to create a class and how to change the look and feel of the IDE as well, right? Okay, so let's dive in. So the first thing first, you need to log into your org, right? So you can use your sandbox or your developer org, whichever based on your preference. So, and if you're doing merely practice or you're training, then I prefer you to use the free developer org. Okay, so let's jump into developer console. So the way to go to developer console by going to this gearcog icon. It will take you to your developer console. So I've already opened the developer console, and as you can see, there are a few lines of codes which we have written in the last lecture, right? So we're going to enhance it today to talk about if-else statements, which I'm just going to walk you through the basic stuff. I won't go into detail because I expect you to know what if-else means, but just to give you a context, right? Then we get into SObjects. Going to do some insert and going to talk about Soql query limit. The biggest problem we have in Salesforce is a Soql query limit. You have to, if you're a Salesforce developer, you should know how to write your HTML statement so that you don't experience the Soql limit, right? So I will explain to you how to get around that. And yeah, let's get started. I hope you're excited. Okay, so the first thing first, right? So this is the thing which we covered last time. We talked about string and we talked about list. So again, let me show you how the if-else statement works, right? So let's say we have this static class, right? I'm displaying the hello world. So instead of hello world, I would just wanted to say hello universe, right? So let's put a Boolean variable here. Boolean, say universe. And if you don't like this look and feel, you can change it. Let's say, this is the second lecture. Let's go ahead and change the background interface because I love to do stuff different. It just keeps things exciting, right? That's my preference. I mean, you can stick to the same if you like. Yeah, I mean, just gonna. I don't like the white background. It just hurts my eyes. So that's the thing. Reason why I don't use it probably. But most of the time. So yeah. Okay. All right. No, not this one. Okay. You know what? I will keep it to not this one as well. Twilight. You know what? Let's stick to it. Okay. Right. Wow. Okay. So we have this Boolean. So Boolean, right? If it's true or false. Okay. So what we're gonna do, just to give you if, okay, universe, right? If it's true, you don't have to put equals to true. If you want, you can, but if it's Boolean, you can do something like this, right? If it's universe, then cover system.debug and just put hello universe, right? And else. So just put it under, right? So if I have selected the universe, if my flag is true, then display hello universe, else display hello world, right? But the syntax looks a bit yucky, right? It's not intended properly. Indentation is a bit out of context. So what we can do, just do Control A, and you do Shift Tab. I will align it for you, right? and then Control S, and we'll save it. Okay, so that's our if else works, right? You can have nested if else. You have if universe, else if. You can do something like that. If you have else if, based on the condition. So this is pretty straightforward. So let's save it and let's run it, right? So as usual, to run it, you need to go to your execute anonymous window. So let's we're gonna do demo1 dot. I'm just gonna do display. Just gonna do true, and we're gonna put it as system.debug. Okay, sorry, not debug. And let's run it. So you can, as you can see, I've already ticked the open log and execute. Sorry, that doesn't look good. Okay, what is it? Okay, hang on. Just a second. Just a second. Sometimes. Okay, let's see if this works. System.debug. And it should display. Sorry, because system.debug needs to return a variable inside, because and this demo.display is a void statement. Sorry, my apologies. So I didn't realize that. So we don't actually need system.debug, so because we already have it. So let's run it. Because you can't use a void method inside a system.debug. It expects a string or something, right? So hello universe, right? That's fantastic. And you're gonna do, let's go to false, and it will take you there, and right, it will take you hello world. Pretty straightforward, right? It's nothing fancy. Okay, so that's done. Then we can talk about for loops. So for loops. So what we're gonna do, let's create a account using for loop. Create account. And I wanted to emphasize on error handling as well. So I'll cover that in a minute. I'll just show you the sign of a bad written code so that you understand a poorly written code, how it looks like, right? So for, let's say I'm gonna create a 5 accounts, right? I integer, this is a for loop. I with start with 0, right? And I less than equals to, let's say 5, and we increment I. This is a normal for loop, right? And account A equals to new account, and so we're gonna do a dot name equals to test, okay, plus integer dot value of, sorry, no, not this one, string dot value of. Okay, so what we're gonna do, so we okay, so I'll show you the problem here, and we'll just for now think about this class, right? So I just wanted to demonstrate for loop, how the for loop looks like, then we get into the problem, right? So the main intention of this method is, right, it's loops through it will create a loop from 0 and to 5, right? And it will create an account, say, with the name test, and append with so test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, test 5, test 0, test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4, test 5, right? Okay, let's test it, right? And let's see what happens, right? This is a for loop, a basic for loop, where it loops through, we have initialized an integer here, and it says to run it if it's less than or equal to 5, and then increment it, right? So let's see what happens here. So we're gonna save it first, right? and I'll show you the problem what we have in this method. This method is if someone asks you to troubleshoot this specific piece of code, there are a lot of issues with this code, right? And the first, I'll tell you what the issues with the code. So, and this is sorry, and this is a very poorly written insert operation. There are two things to it. Okay, I will cover that. Sorry, just for some reason I wanted to delete this, and it's just okay. All right. Okay, so we're gonna do create account. Okay, let's see what happens. All right, so I think it's done something, and let's see if we have created an account or not. So I don't see any error message, so let's see if we got any error message. It did something, right? So okay, so it says there is a duplicate, right? So see, okay, so right, so it complained, right? And filter error, there's no error. Okay, so what we're gonna do, so we're gonna run the Soql. In this way, you know, you can't really figure out what's going on, right? So so that's one of the problems. So let's ID from account where name like test. So I will cover the Soql. Don't worry about the Soql. Just wanted to test what happens. So and the name. So seems like we have created successfully. So the test 0 to test 5. So that's good. Because I didn't see any error information in the log file. So even though it mentioned about some duplicates here. So for now, please ignore it. We will dive detail into the error logging because I want you to understand each and everything about the error logging when we get to that topic of error logging, right? So, okay, so this is how the for loop works. And as you can see, we have created an account from test 0 to test 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 records it's created, right? Okay, so that's great. And then now let's say, now we have something called for to loop. So this is great, this loop, when you want to, when you know from 0 to certain field, 0 to certain number you want to loop through, right? Then we have something called for in certain programming language you call for each, or some say for in. So we are looping through a collection, right? So let's say if you have a list, right? If you wanted to loop through the list, just give you a very simple example: list of account, right? Equals to select ID from account, limit 4. I'll explain to you what this means, right? Just hang on a second. 4. Sorry. So ACT list, right? For accounts A1. So AI, just whatever. ACT list. Okay. System.debug. Right. Let's move this to a separate method. Public static void. We are not bothered with the return of the method. Display accounts, right? Because we're using system debug, but you know, if you wanted to return a list, that's fine. But I just wanted to and make you guys understand the concept, right? A.name. Okay, so and let's okay, so don't worry about the quality of the code for now, because my main interest is to explain to you guys what the so display account. Let's see, there's an issue here. Let's see, what is it? Okay, so variable does not exist A, that's 31. Okay, that makes sense because it's AI, right? This feature is handy where whenever there is a compilation error, right, it will display it under problem, which is very handy. Okay, so this is another for loop. So what I'm doing is, so I'm actually using a Soql query to get an account, 4 records from an account, and I'm storing that into a list of an account, right? List is a collection, and this is how you write a Soql query. And you can actually integrate a Soql query into an Apex, right? And right, so after that, I need to loop through the record in a collection. So the way to do it, so I'm actually saying, because this is a data type account, and I'm saying, okay, let's loop through the account collection, and let's display the individual account name, right? So for this is the list and individual accounts. So I'm looping through it and I'm displaying it. Sorry if it sounds a bit overwhelming at this time, just stay with me. I mean, it will, as you progress with the course, you will get a clear indication about what collections means and list means. So this is very commonly used code, populating the record from a Soql to collections. It's you will find this very common in your Apex code. If you're troubleshooting someone else's Apex code, you will find this, right? So let's run this code, right, and show you what I mean by that. And so let's see. So, and limit 4, right? It means that I want to limit my data set to 4 records, right? So that's what the limit means. You can limit to 2, limit to 1, right? Okay, so all right, there is a yeah, it should be SObject row was retrieved by Soql without querying the requested field. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. So when you query this, right? So the problem, okay, so what happened is I only query the ID here, right? So it will not, it returns only an ID field of an account object. So, but I'm referring down the method an account.name, but there is no name I'm getting, right? So that's what it complains. So yeah. So that's, that's how you troubleshoot. So it should work now. Let it save. Sometimes it takes time to save. So let's go to debug and let's run it. Now it should run without complaining. Okay, and so you go to debug here, right? You see test 1, test 2, test 3. Fantastic, right? Okay, so that's how you loop through the collections, right? You can loop through the map as well. Maps are a bit trickier because you need to loop through the key sets and you need to get the keys. So I won't be covering map today because that's a little bit advanced. I will cover later, right? So I just don't want guys to get confused and say, oh, it's too complicated. It's not really complicated. So I just wanted to give you an idea how list works and to demonstrate a for loop, for each or for in, whatever you say. I need to show collections, right? So my apologies if it's a bit overwhelming. Okay. So similarly, we have while loop, right? While loops are pretty straightforward. While it's less than, just give you an example. So it loops through as long as its conditions are met, and then we have something called do while, right? So that. So in do while, right, it will execute at least once before the condition hits, right? But the while it will not execute if the conditions is not met. So I'll read through the documentation. I'll put the link again. So please go through it. And then we have a switch statement. So as you mentioned that If you remember, we talked about the if else, right? If else can get very, it can get very complex and nested. So sometimes it looks yucky in terms of reading. So use switch wherever it's needed, but there are few data types switch supports. I'll just show you. So these are the Apex switch you can use with this integer, long, SObject string, but you can see there's no Boolean, right? Just a second. Here you can see this is a Boolean, right? So we can't use a Boolean in a switch. So for instance, if x equals to 0, or if x equal to 1, or if x equal to 2. So the if statement gets clunky and yucky, right? So the best way in switch, you can use switch something when 0, 1, 2, 3. It's become more read-only. So go through the documentation, and I'll put the link there, and you will find out when to use it. It comes with experience, right? So okay, so we talked about the switch, which is great. Now we're gonna talk about the problem we have in this piece of a code, right? Okay, so first thing first, what happens if there is an exception here, right? How do you debug it? Where do you log it to first, This is a poorly written code. Okay, the first correction you need to have error handling. So, because you're doing an insert operation, okay? So I will cover insert, delete, update, upsert, merge. I'll talk about in a minute. So let me cover exception first. Oh, sorry. Catch exception ex. Okay, system.debug ex.getMessage. If you wanted to know what line number the exception happened, you can do get a line number as well, right? So for now, just keep it simple, and just gonna do Control A, and just gonna do that. Say, let's see if it saves. Okay. All right, saved. So that's fantastic. Okay. So what we're gonna do. So the first thing, what we have done, we have added the try catch, because anything can go wrong, right? Because for syntax, data error, or whatever, you have to always assume that things can go wrong, because you can't assume, all right, my code is perfect, now nothing can fall apart. No, that's not gonna happen. I've been programming for years. There are times the code goes horribly wrong at times because of the data issues or something. So you need to take care of the error handling. So error handling, the first thing. I mean, if I see a code without error handling, I will not let that to pass the code review, because I would say that's a garbage. Because we are putting a code out there in production which is highly prone to error, right? And we need to have a error handling. That is a big must for me. Any code, if you're doing any kind of insert operation, delete operation, we need to make sure that we have an error handling, at least a basic error handling. If you're not using your own custom error handling, I mean, sometimes we use our own custom error handling, so I don't want to get into that. Just to give you a context, error handling, okay? Another thing, this is prone to Soql limit error. In this case, not really, because we are only doing a 6 insert. Imagine, right? Let's say plus, okay, so I will say test data, test ACC, okay. All right, now let's run it. I'll show you what happens. It will complain because of Soql limit, right? This code is not good. Because it will give you a Soql, and I've seen a couple of codes written like this, and I was like, no, that's not good. Because I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, let's create it, and it will complain. Okay. Right, open execute anonymous window, and let's see what happens. Let's see, just see, too many DML statement, right? So I complained, so it failed because you hit the Soql limit. And because every loop you're inserting, okay, one loop, one. So this is not a good way to do it. So the best way to do it, you got to put everything into collection and do once insert statement, right? So the way to do it, let's see. Okay, before we get into that, let me explain to you what insert means, and then we have update, right? Just an example, and then we have merge. We have delete, we have upsert. Okay, so insert, it will insert a new record into your database, right? So you're creating a new record, use insert. Update, it will update an existing information. Let's say you decided to update the name or whatever, so use update. Merge, it will merge the three records into one and deletes the two. Delete, it will delete your record from the database. Upsert means you can do insert and update in a one go, right? Let's say you have 10, let's say you wanted to do 10 record insert and two record update. You can do that using upsert. You need to specify a specific field. If not, it will it will choose an ID as a key. Okay, so these are the things you need to pay very attention because you will be using more. Okay, and so to solve this problem, right, we have to use a collection here. That's what collections are coming in handy. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna do list of account. So ACCT equal to new list of account. Okay, and so one way I'm teaching you how to avoid the Soql queries. So we're not gonna do insert here. So we're gonna ACT call dot add, and we're gonna do a, right? Okay, and so we're gonna do insert. Let's not do 500. Let's do 200, right? Because so insert ACT call. Okay. So what we're going to do, let's see if it saves, and let's see if we can do an account insert. Let's see if it works. Fantastic, right? There is no Soql error, so okay. So what we're gonna do, so query editor like test ACT, right, you have, say, 201, okay, fantastic, right? So what happens is that I put everything into collection, so we are actually executing just one statement here. So this is how you do a Soql, avoid Soql DML error. Very important. I have faced this when I initially started with Apex development because it's a bit different to other programming languages, right? Where you don't have any entity framework like you have in a .NET framework, C#. So I kind of struggled a bit initially, but once you understand the concept, it's very good. It's very easy and it's very handy, right? Because especially when you're dealing with the complex projects. Okay, now we're gonna talk about SObjects. SObjects is a data type where you can assign any standard or custom object to it and custom object records to it. So let's gonna do a simple demo here. So I'll demonstrate what I'm gonna do. Private static okay, we're gonna do list of SObject. Right, get account. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I always like to put everything in the try cache. Okay, but just a practice, it's good to record if something goes wrong, then you know what's going wrong, right? ex dot. I highly encourage you to please use the try catch. Okay, so let's create a list of SObjects, right? SObjects, SObject, okay. My intelligence works, so if you're not sure about it, SOb, okay, new list of SOb, okay, and then what we're gonna do, let's populate for record account to SObject as we did earlier, something like this, right? Here you can see we are actually specifically saying, okay, I want to populate for account record to a collection of accounts, right? Instead of this, I can copy this code, right? No, I don't have to copy this code because it's just fine. So I can do, okay, what I'm going to do, I'll just copy this, all right? Instead of this, right, I can do this. And I can say return sob. So let's see if it saves first. Okay, and then we deal with it. Okay, there's an error here. We will deal with it. Okay, maybe I did a mistake. It's fine. Okay, return statement, because when there's a cache here, so we're gonna do return null. Okay, that should work. All right, what happens, when you have a cache statement, when there's exception, what do you want to return? So for time now, I'm just returning null. Okay, so what happened here, right? If you pay close attention to it, I've created a list of SObjects, right? And I have assigned an account records to SObject. And then complaint, right? You can assign a standard or a custom object to it, or records to it. Every SObject is a record in your Salesforce database, right? So let me show you what I meant by that. Let's work out in an anonymous window. I mean, I love anonymous window. This is fantastic, right? Okay, list of SObject, right? Okay, so we're gonna do S here, demo1 dot, right, get account. All right, let's maximize this just to get you context. Okay, now we got an SObject here, so let's loop through the collection, right? As I've already taught you how to use the collection, right? Fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna do S. I'm looping through the SObjects, but I wanted to get the name of an account. If I do a.name, it doesn't work because there is no such thing called name, because SObject don't know what are you talking about, right? So we need to typecast it. So how do you typecast it? That's an interesting question. So account A1, right, equals to account, right? And let's typecast this boy to account. Okay, system.debug A1 dot, hopefully this works. Let's see. There's some issue here. Hang on, let's see, just a second. Okay, just a second. Okay, so there is something. Demo1 get of account. What is wrong here? Let's see what's going wrong. Get account, which is great. List of object. I'm actually returning a list of objects. So what is wrong here? Hang on, just a second. Sometimes I get, just get annoyed with this console, but it's fine. You need to troubleshoot. So this is how you get. Sometimes you were like, oh, what's going on, right? See, doesn't work. Okay, there's something seriously wrong. Okay, so you're gonna do demo1 dot get account. Okay, should work. Let's see if it works or not. Method is not visible. Ah, sorry. You know what? I was not paying attention to it. Okay. Right. Because it was public. Sorry, it was private. Right. So that's the problem. Yeah. And list. And I was not paying attention to the error message. My apologies. Yeah, so you will encounter such issues and you wonder what's going on, and you just figure out, and then you say, oh, it's not working, what's going on? This is one of the way, you know, troubleshooting happens sometimes, right? You know, things go wrong and you need to, you know, sort it out. So that's one of the thing every developer encounter in a day-to-day life, right? Okay, so I've made it as public because there was a limited visibility of that method here, right? So now let's see if it works. Okay, so that works. Okay, let's see if I can get a name of okay, so test 0, test 2, test 3, that's fantastic. So, so as you can see, what I've done was I have actually typecasted SObject to an account, right? And this is actually, I mean, people do use this way. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from doing an assignment of an account to an SObject, but I often don't do that. But the reason I wanted to demonstrate it is one of the things you need to know for a platform dev one, right? So what I've done was that, see, I got a list of accounts, right? And I store that into SObject collection, which is a list, and I loop through it, and I did a for each or for in, whatever you say, the collection loop, right? And then I've assigned a typecasted it to an account and assigned to an account object. There you go, because it worked, right? So SObjects, so here this account is an individual account, so if it's a record of an account, so which can be represented in the form of an SObject, right? So that's exactly what I've done. Okay, so this is a very important topic because you need to understand what SObject is about, right? It represents, because Apex is closely tied to the database, right? So SObjects represent a record in a Salesforce database, right? If you remember that point of view. From that perspective, right? Think about from a SQL Server point of view, right? If you are someone who works with SQL Server, every row, right, represents an SObject. That's how you know, if that sounds simpler for you to remember. So that's pretty much I wanted to talk about today. You know, as you can see that Apex is huge. But at the same time, it's very simple to understand. It's not really complicated. You need to practice. You need to understand the concept. So we talked about loops today, right? We talked about if-else, and I showed you, and I've given you basic and covered basic information around switch, and then we covered list, populate the list with Soql query. Don't worry about the Soql query now. I will be covering Soql query in the next lecture, right? Soql query is very important. You will be using a lot of Soql query, right? Okay. Yeah, and then we talked about how to fix Soql limit, right? And that's one of the things you will experience when you are dealing with Apex. I have experience. See, one of the things I would like to mention, I would like to emphasize that the best learning you get when you actually struggle, right? Because the struggle teaches you the real lessons of programming. Because you might get a lot of things from Trailhead, but the real experience comes on when you actually fail, when you actually struggle. You know, the things which you experience in your day-to-day programming life, the challenges you find, right? That's the gold, I would say. That's the real thing which teaches you, right? I mean, I've struggled a lot in my programming career. You know, sometimes, you know, you got no one to go to, so you have to sit and figure out yourself, right? You need to Google it, you need to figure out, because as a developer, your employer, or even if you're running your own business, right, it's expected from you to, you will you will solve the problem, right? And the opportunity you get and the struggle you go through, right? That's the real gold, as I mentioned, right? That teaches you to be the real to be a real programmer. And it's a great journey. I mean, I've been enjoying it. I mean, I had ups and downs, but it's great. Those those downs, right? They teaches you more than your ups in your programming career. That's my opinion. I mean, you might have different opinions, so right. Just wanted to, yeah. I mean, everyone has different perspective, So this is just my own opinion. So I didn't mean to, enforce on anyone. Just share with you what I've been through and the things how I learned. I so when I started with the Salesforce, right? I mean, I've been given like just half a day just to set figure out and just start coding. I mean, I haven't seen Apex before. I mean, I've been working with C#. I've done with other programming, so I have to figure out. So the first thing what I did, if I googled the best way to write an Apex code, right? I didn't care about the syntax because that's syntax you can pick up just in 10 minutes if you're an experienced programmer, right? So I look for a better code online, how experienced Salesforce developer will write, and the best practices and the pitfall. That's the thing I invested my time on to figure out, right? It comes with experience, right? So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. So if you like my video, please subscribe. My main intention is to make you great and awesome Salesforce developer, right? All right, guys, that's all I wanted to cover. So I hope you have an amazing Sunday wherever you are. Greetings from New Zealand. Take care. Bye.